What's up, everybody? It's your man Dame D NYDC. Man, we two mics up, man. We live. Join the night and for this season and series, man, we're gonna change it up. We're gonna do some sports entertainment talk with my partner, my man. You've been here before, Big A Sam Adams. You can check him out, man, at Old Sarge Gaming. Make sure you go ahead follow. Sam, what's good tonight, man?
What's going on? How you doing, brother?
Man, look, trying to make it, and trying to do this thing here, man, and have a little fun, and change up. We were talking backstage with all this political unrest that's going on in the
Yeah, we need a
country.
breather, man.
Yeah, and tonight and these next you know 5 weeks, if you will, we're just gonna jump in. Training camp is here. The season is changing. Football is back, and
Yep.
I'm excited. To do this with you, man, and continue to build. For those of you in the background, if you're watching, let us know where you're from. Let it, drop your team in the chat. And just rock with us, man. Drop your comments, man, and sit back and have some fun.
Don't get
So,
don't get your feelings hurt if your team isn't brought up either. It's no love
well,
lost. So
and that's the important part. This is not personal, right?
yeah,
We're just having a little fun. We're doing our spin on training camp, and like Sam said, don't take it personal. I mean, obviously tonight, uh, I don't have on my Giants blue. Me and my Giants, we are at that part of the relationship where we're just not seeing eye to eye.
you
And
had a crossroads.
yeah, we had a major crossroads. And but I'm gonna rock with my blue, but I'm rocking my young days when I first started, getting into football and sports, my Jets, and that's the beauty of living in New York. But here nor there, you know, we're gonna talk about the O lines. We're getting in the trenches tonight, ladies and
Yep.
gentlemen. And Sam and I, built out this show with that in mind. So again, don't think of the entire defensive unit. Think of it as just the D lines and the O lines, the big dudes that's down in the trenches that really, uh, without your superstars, really have probably the most control, in my opinion, on the outcome of games. You rely on your QBs and running backs, but it really starts in the trenches. And Sam, but I'm interested to know, what do you feel, or what was your thought process, kind of diving into this from your perspective?
I don't know because you got to sit here and think about all the games throughout the season.
Hmm.
And then you think about those hot teams. Who was consistent. For the whole season. Who had the slow start because there was some shift changes in 2023.
Hmm.
Um, you know, also, what else was out there as far as your defenses? Who was coming back? You
Hmm.
know, which teams had the best assets to sit here and build up from what they already had to the additions that they already had on that line.
Right.
So it took a lot for me to sit here and try to dwindle this down to like five on defense and five on offense. So you, I think I'm okay, but
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
Hey, I did the
Subject
same.
to interpretation. Everyone's going to have their top picks, and to let y'all know, I'm a Packers fan. So whether it's offense or defense, you will be hearing their name on both sides. So I just want to drop that in there. Love them, hate them, go Pack, go.
Hey, look, I understand. At least you're coming from a perspective of a team and an organization right now. Like I said before, that even though you've gone through change, you guys are still
Hmm.
stabilizing. What you're doing within the organization, and I hear you as far as your O line and your D line. I think they're pretty solid. They're pretty standard across the board. Like I said, me and my Giants, on the other hand, we've been dealing with this offensive line problem for the last 10 years, and we still can't get it right. So to let you all know, I'm a Giants fan, but they are not on either one of these lists. So at least not for at least not for the 24-25 season. So I just want to be honest and let you all know that. So getting started with this, some of the, you have brought up some of the most dominant D lines and O lines, in NFL history. And I thought it was pretty dope perspective in the sense, we look at definitely, these 2020, current Chiefs, dominant on the offensive line, the Great
Yep.
Wall, the Cowboys, the 80s Redskins. Then obviously on the
Hmm.
defensive side, you got to go with the Bears. You definitely have to, I'm going to go ahead and bring that slide back up because I thought it was really interesting how you broke it down. Even with the 70s Steelers, the steel curtain was tight. And for a team that went to the Super Bowl in the 70s, but never really broke the barrier, the 1970s Vikings purple people eaters, man. I think they were very dominant across the defensive side. I think of teams like the Jets, the Sack Exchange, going through their little heyday and their little run, and other various teams. But what made you really hone in on the teams, on that list? Because I mean, I thought that was a great list, and a couple of them, like I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even think about.
I felt like the whether it was offense or defense, like those teams sat there and they owned their era that they belonged into. You
Mm,
know,
yeah,
I hate the Cowboys, but you couldn't get past that line, and the way that Emmett Smith was able to sit there and run all over the field, with their rush block protection,
yep,
as well as giving Troy Aikman the opportunity to sit there in that pocket, and sling that mug, to
mm-hmm.
Irving or whatever other weapons that he had out there. Like that really gravitated my attention. Then you think about who else I had up there, the Hogs.
The Hogs, yep.
Yeah, 88 because doggone Bills went in that slump, and the Hogs contributed to giving the doggone Bills that L. What
Yep.
was it? 89 or 90?
And I think it was at 90, I believe it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I want to say 90. But I just think same thing. I just think about how dominant they were. When it comes to this trench warfare.
Yeah.
And who can forget the Bears defense with
Ooh wee. Yeah.
the fridge. You know what I'm
Ooh.
saying?
Monsters.
Um, just those are I feel like those are teams like they were defiant. Based off of their core that was up front, charging the way and leading the way.
Mm. Yeah, that I still have to say, and I think most people consensus would say that 85 Bears that the unit itself, but that line was
Mm-hmm.
just monster. Just the pressure that they could put on defenses just from
Yep.
that defensive line really was critical in their success. Um, and that was a build up just to that one season, really.
Yep.
And they slap boxed and kick punched everybody, man. I mean, it was just and I want to say that was the Patriots, right? I think that year,
Yeah.
it's like some 46-10 or some. It was just a rout, and it was crazy,
Smacked them.
man. It was smack hard. Gave him the business.
Yep.
So I thought those were great lines, and we're going to jump in. And like I say, those of you I see one or two back there in the weeds. Like I said, don't be afraid to go ahead and drop a comment. Let us know. What squad you rocking with. Drop them in the comments, and don't be afraid to let us know where you're joining us from. So we're going to jump in, Sam, but we're going to start, on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm
Okay.
gonna go ahead and let you start off with your number 5 team that you selected for tonight's warfare in the trenches.
See, I didn't have a particular order, but if I'm gonna go
Okay.
with five, I'm gonna go with the Niners.
Okay.
They actually should just, I mean, when you look at their average that they had for the season, I mean, they were third in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
They were second in total yards at scrimmage or total yards at 398 per game.
Whew.
You
All
know what
right.
I'm saying? So they were giving Brock Purdy or anybody else. Who else was back there at one point in time? Was it like Sam Donald or somebody?
Say, yeah, they had
Yeah,
him as the backup.
yeah. But it's just the fact that they averaged 257 yards per game.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? In the air alone. So that just
Right.
lets you know about the pass protection right there. And
Right.
then with the addition of CMC from
Yeah.
doggone Carolina, turned
Hmm.
up that running game. They were averaging 140 yards
That's
doggone
crazy.
per game.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
wow.
Wow.
I, I,
Right. That's
I ain't gonna
crazy.
get into detail as far as like the line of scrimmage and all that stuff,
Right.
but and then just for the season, I want to say Brock Purdy only had like 28 sacks.
Hmm.
You know what I'm
They
saying?
kept him
Even
clean.
though, yeah, granted he was injured, you know, a couple of games out of the season, but still, as compared to a lot of these other lines, you know, that pass protection was pretty vicious right there.
Yeah, it was pretty impeccable. So that was, Sam's number 5 O line, the 49ers. And I mean, I can't dispute, any of the numbers or anything that you shared. Because I mean, San Francisco definitely, and again, I don't, not to knock Brock Purdy, coming from where he came from as a selection, and the things that he's really done, really, and this was really his first season that we saw, him start to finish. It was impeccable. They kept him clean. I
Yep.
think they were, like you said, they were very balanced in both areas. And that line in San Francisco does a great job of pass pro and run blocking. So I thought, that was a great selection. Now I looked at it from a different perspective uh, with my number 5, because I just think that this unit, even though they really haven't won a lot uh, down in Atlanta, again, I thought Atlanta, their line, their starting 5 is pretty solid, and they really only have, one major superstar on their line,
Hmm.
Lindstrom, who's the old lineman. But I think the biggest takeaway is they've for the last several years, even under Arthur Smith when he was there, they had a great running game,
Right.
and they really didn't have, I mean, they got Bijan now, in the backfield, great pick, but they were using guys like Cordell Patterson and all of these other gentlemen that you really never really heard of, but they were solid, in the run game, pass protection, uh, pretty decent. I think the problem though with Atlanta is, so they got rid of the coach. I hate to say, Arthur Smith. I just don't think he was really making it happen,
Right.
and they moved on from Desmond Ritter. I,
I mean, they
I don't.
needed to.
Right. I mean, I don't want to say that he's not, like, he's better than me. Obviously, he's a professional, but I just don't think he
Right.
was it. Um, and I just think moving away from that play calling, but now they brought in the gentleman Zach Robinson, who was out in L.A.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see, that Sean McVay type of uh, run and pass game and scheme. And I think just from their continuity, like I said, for the last several years, they've pretty much had the same starting unit. And I
Right.
think that goes a long way in in their continued development, but I think in their overall success on the offensive side of the ball. So I look to I look forward to seeing what they do. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins is uh, overhyped. Um, his agent though, his agent gets
He's a
cool.
magician.
This dude,
Hey,
three
look,
hundred million.
he be cooking these deals, man. Like that's all I can say about that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Franchise me. I don't care. That's a quick 32 mil. You know what I'm
and,
saying? All
and
day.
that's what he. I mean, he done did it like 3 times, man. So,
Yep.
um, I think it'll help the continuity. When you're going into a new scheme, I think just because you've been playing with the same guys, and you have that overall continuity, I think it will help them transition a little bit easier into what they will eventually become. And again, it's to be seen.
Right.
But that's the route that I went, with my number 5 pick. So
Okay.
for you, who'd you have at your number 4?
All right, y'all. This is when my bias kick in. All right. Just go put it out there. I got the Green Bay Packers. All right. So let me go ahead and get this in and we can move on. All right. Now, granted, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of going into the season, there was a lot of unknowns. We had Bakhtiari. I love him to death. He was over there in Green Bay for like 7, 8 seasons. The issue that we had was he was injury prone. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying? He was an all pro. But like we couldn't rely on him. But
mm-hmm,
thankfully we had like Jenkins come in the fold,
yep,
to take that spot. They did really good over the past 2 seasons, sitting here loading up on offensive linemen. At first, I was skeptic because I was like, man, we need some receivers out here.
Yeah,
Like, why are we sitting here and investing in some of these old linemen? But they actually showed up and showed out. You
they
know what I'm
did.
saying?
They did.
Midway through the season, they actually got that continuity too. You know what I'm
They
saying?
did.
So, and with that, you know what I'm saying, with Jordan Love coming in his official first season, they actually gave him the opportunity to sling that ball like for what was it, 40, 41, 59, I
Yeah,
think it was.
yeah. He did some
So
good
the
numbers,
yardage
man.
was out there for the season, limited him to about 30 sacks. We did have some injuries, so I'm hoping going into 2024. We did fire our strength coach, which was good, because he can't keep nobody
Everybody
healthy worth a
healthy.
damn. So with that being said, going into this new season, I hope that they, you know, at least get me some games that we have that solid five up front.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We have Josh Jacobs. Even though I would have came over there and gave doggone
I would have gave
Aaron
Aaron that
Jones,
money. I would have gave him that money.
yeah. I mean, he took a league minimum over there in Minnesota,
Right.
veterans minimum. So I
Right.
would have gave him something, especially how he showed up towards the end of the season, going into the playoffs, dusting doggone Dallas. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a good future ahead of us. Josh Jacobs is a younger version of Aaron Jones. I just hope he can stay healthy too, because he was having those issues the past 2 seasons out there with the Raiders. But then again, the Raiders didn't have no O line, so they were
Yeah.
getting dusted. They
Yeah.
couldn't protect or block anybody.
Yeah.
That's what pissed Devontae off.
That's what
So
exactly. It
he
was a
came over
repeat.
there and was like, I'm not going to financially come back after this." He was a little
Yeah.
distraught. So, but yeah, I got the Packers down for my number five. I mean number four. My bad.
Four. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think you hit some valid points. Again, consistency has been a huge key in Green Bay's success. And
Hmm.
like you said, watching the maturation of Love and the young receiving core that they have, I think they, it's a building thing, right?
Yeah.
Year one, now let's see how they take off and how they build and how they mesh. And I think you had a good pick. Even though you're a homer, but I think it was a good
Yeah.
pick. I would have definitely considered, and I considered them, as well in my top five, even though they didn't make it, but I did consider them. For me, I went at my number four. I went with the defending Super Bowl champs, and their interior line, man, just really remains one of the best, if not one of the most dominant combos. From their guard center guard position, just the interior. I think that really helps Patrick really stay clean and really
Hmm.
allows him to see the middle of the field and to see those lanes, especially in the middle. A lot of times, he does his own improv though. But
Yeah.
when I watch some of the games, by him being clean and being able to attack the middle, really gives him that room to be able to break right or left, and float out and make those plays with those long passes down the field and different things. So that was huge to me. And you know, I know right now, kind of looking at it, I think that their left tackle really is like a huge question mark right now. As the
Yeah.
second round rookie, I think I can't say his last name, but it's Kingsley.
Okay.
He could be in a battle for a starting job. That's why they picked him. And then they have Donovan Smith, who's still a free agent on the market after starting 16 games. So I mean, if they can bring him back to protect, Patrick's blind side, I think that would be huge for them. And that's really the only reason why I didn't have them higher,
Yeah.
just because of the unknown. And we're talking about right now, we're talking about early preseason camps really just started and we were doing it. So that was really why I didn't list them higher. But if all of those things really play out and they're able to bring him back, I mean, you could probably argue that, I mean, they're the reigning two-time defending champions. And that line play is a huge part of it. They could easily be, number one on this list for me. So,
Right.
you know, but we'll see and how they play out with the other parts. I mean, Pacheco's a beast. They had some troubles last year. They really didn't have a true number one wide receiver. But I
Yeah.
think another year under the system, they've got two young guys that I think can can really perform, that can go out and really fill the needs that they need at the receiver position to make them better this year. And I mean,
Watch out
heck,
for Xavier Worthy.
Worthy and
Yeah.
the other young boy, man, his name is slipping my tongue, but they have another young boy. But Worthy is a monster. He's like, I don't
Hmm.
want to say Tyreek Hill, but he has those flashes, that speed,
Yeah.
that breakaway speed, that's just crazy. And of course, I mean, they got Travis Kelsey. I mean,
Yeah.
you can like him or not, his role is cemented forever, especially in that offense. And he and Patrick just have that amazing chemistry, which is just crazy. So, like I said, they could be higher on the list if everything else plays out.
Right.
Uh, so we're gonna transition to number three on the list,
Okay.
and I'm in because this one right here, we kind of have in both on our list, just in different places. But I'm interested to hear your take on your number three pick.
All right. Even though I still feel that the Packers are the king of the North, you know what I'm saying? I have to give my flowers, when they're credited and due.
Right.
So I have the Detroit Lions as my
Okay.
number three pick. I mean, just look at everything that Jared Goff was able to do with this doggone offensive line.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
fifth in scored points. They were third in yards per game with 394. Jared Goff was averaging like 258 yards, 260 yards a game. Um, they
Solid.
had an absolute monster as far as the backfield,
Whew.
with Swift, Chubb, and who else
They had
was
the
it?
other young boy. They had the other young boy. I know exactly. They were a three-headed
Yeah,
monster, man. They can put
yeah.
anybody back there.
Yeah, it didn't matter. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You had it was just wild. They averaged 135 yards a game.
Who
You know
knew?
what I'm saying?
Who knew?
You only had 30 sacks with that O line. So I felt like I said, they were unstoppable. That line kept them in games because their defense
Mm-hmm.
was a little sketchy at times,
Mm-hmm.
giving up the rock, but they were able to sit there, give Jared Goff the protection that he needed, the doggone fleeing that ball right back downfield,
Yep.
or get that running game up and running too. So I got the Lions. I hate to say it, but I got the Lions at number three.
It doesn't even feel right
Like I
coming
said,
out your mouth. I get.
look, man, it's uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's a violation going
Yeah.
on.
Hey, look, Packer Nation, don't hold it against Sam. He's just talking sports.
Hey, look, y'all know what's true too. I don't care if you're a Packers fan or
But
not. Like, we
but
were
it's
over
true.
here cussing. We were cussing that first game that we got drummed. You know what I'm saying? So like, we just gotta take it and own it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but like, their coach, he pieced that line together.
Yeah.
They were willing to sit here and doggone, ride on his shoulders.
Right.
So yeah, you just gotta that was their missing piece, doggone Jared Goff. Are they going to
Yeah.
do it again this year? We'll see.
But
But I feel like they're going to be up there.
I have to agree. And like I said, I have Detroit on my list. It's not at the same spot, but you kind of nailed it in every aspect. And I'll talk about it, when I get to them. But I think you and I are on the same page. Just with a lot of things that you've already presented. They are definitely a team to definitely pay attention to. These are not your mother or father's Detroit Lions of old.
Yeah.
They've definitely, I think, finally crossed that threshold to where, at least in the foreseeable future, the next 2 to 3 years, I think you have to now seriously add them into any title conversation. And I was hesitant to say that before, but watching the last two seasons and watching the growth and the work that they're putting in, I think you definitely have to put them in that conversation. So for me, my number three, I went with the Cleveland Browns, and again, this is for me another situation like Atlanta. Cleveland has had one of the best running games that you've seen, with Nick Chubb, even with the
Mm-hmm.
injuries, the young brother Ford. It seemed like anybody that they put back behind this line uh, finds the holes, finds the gaps, makes plays, uh, and they've been solid and they've been consistent. They're starting five. This watching them, let's just be honest. The whole team, I don't know what's in the water in Lake Erie. Um, but I don't know, but like they've just had so much adversity just dealing with, injuries just across the board.
Yeah.
Willis and Conklin and the brother Dewar Jones, they went down with season ending injuries. And it really forced them to scramble. And it didn't help that we had, Cleveland had to roll through I don't know how many quarterbacks once, Deshaun
17.
went. Yeah, right. I mean, it seemed like it, bro. Like they were playing a new quarterback every week. It was just crazy.
Yep.
So when you mix that in, even watching them, even with whoever they put behind center, though, even offensively, like in the pass game, still for the most part kept them upright and
Yep.
gave them lanes. But it just never the math just did math for them last year. But
Right.
I look at them as a team, like I said, even with Atlanta, they've been solid, and they've had consistency. But the only other question that I see for them, and again, I could have put Cleveland higher, just really not having Bill Callahan anymore, running this offense. So again, we talking training camp, and I'm just talking off of last season numbers and what I've seen and what I believe. Again, consistency, and if they come back from injuries,
Yeah.
I think they'll be solid. But again, there's those things, and what Deshaun is going to show up, right? Is this the Houston Deshaun? Is like we don't like that's the $1 million question because
Yeah.
again, this is another team that has all the pieces and all the parts. Joku at the tight end, Chubb coming back, Ford coming back, Amari Cooper, like they
Yep.
have pieces. It's
The
just
captain
about
needs to be there, basically. Yeah, I think that's really what it's going to boil down to this season. Once again, they just need consistency at the
yep,
QB position. So I don't
yeah,
know what's going on with Deshaun right now, but he needs to be healthy,
yeah.
and he needs to go ahead and rinse due. You know what I'm
Yeah, it's
saying?
overdue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
overdue,
Rinse,
bro.
rinse overdue. They gave you a wealthy and a healthy doggone guaranteed
Man, look.
on that max contract. So it's time to pay your dues, brother.
Yeah, because your kids ain't
Yeah,
never going to do nothing. And yeah, I want to see some return now. Like we are at the point of no return on that
yeah,
return. So it's going to be
exactly.
interesting to see what happens in Cleveland this year. So we're
Yeah.
going to transition then, Sam. We're going to get into your number two on the list of offensive lines.
So my number two, you already brought him up, but I'm gonna go ahead and say the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
The main thing about Kansas City is you already brought it up before.
Hmm.
They gave Patrick Mahomes the opportunity to sit here and be a doggone magician in that pocket, outside the
Hmm.
pocket, on the sideline, going ahead and busting the line of scrimmage, getting back behind the line of scrimmage to
Yeah.
sit here and do a backdrop throw to doggone Kelsey out of the blue.
Yeah.
Um, and the scary part about it is like for the past 4 or 5 years, they've been consistent with it. They
Hmm.
might have had a couple of changes as far as like chess pieces and everything.
Yeah.
But it's just that autonomy that they've been sitting here and they're just been on the top of that mountain over there at the AFC. You have other contenders that's been trying to challenge them as far as the Ravens,
Right.
Baltimore. I'm sorry, the Ravens, Buffalo,
Yeah.
the Bengals. Whenever they ain't
Joe.
wounded or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
The West Coast, you have doggone Chargers.
Hmm.
But like they're sitting there looking down at everybody else
Without
like who
question.
wants some of this, and we will continue to say that just as long as they show out, especially come the playoffs.
Yeah.
you know it's a roller coaster with their own line, but I think it's just been a few, how can I put it, just misjudgment calls, because they have
Mm.
plenty of opportunities to sit here and run the table. But like you said, they have all the offensive weapons, and then added some this draft, and during the off season, limit doggone Patrick Mahomes to only 27 sacks for the year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
He was able to fling the ball 483 yards. I mean, 4,183 yards for the season.
Mm.
Even though they were six in yards per game, as well as I want to say they were 10th as far as
Hmm.
the rushing yards, but like it kept them in the game.
It really
Like they
did.
needed, they need to have a stellar game or a blowout in order to win. Day one where it mattered the most, which was in the trenches. Like I said, just giving Patrick Mahomes that opportunity to sit here and make whatever needs to happen happen.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. What's up, Costa Rican? Thank you for joining us tonight. I
Hey, what's
hope
going on?
I hope you enjoying the conversation. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you, anymore. Again, definitely a perennial. I mean, two-time defending champs. I mean, you gotta. I don't care how you cut it in this top five. They had to be there somewhere.
Yeah, a
And
conversation needed to be made.
yeah, gotta. I mean, just to keep, like I said, Patrick Mahomes stays so clean a lot of games, man, passing lanes. Uh, to be able to have the opportunity, then you turn around, you hand off to Pacheco, and even look, Edward, the other gentleman, Hilaire, who
Yeah.
was the original, he was the starter before he got hurt. I mean, they just have so many options,
Yep.
and that offensive line just really does one heck of a job
Them
just
boys
keeping.
average between like 6'5" and 6'7" as far as their height. You
Yeah,
know.
could you imagine what the lunch table looks like or the dinner table? Good look, you know what I mean? Come on, these boys, man, they big, man, and this is where it all happens. And in the game, right here in the trenches, and I mean, they do a great job, like I said, of keeping them clean. And for me, I'm piggybacking on the same thing. I'm going with, Detroit for me. Here at this point, everything like you said, man. Detroit is just they to watch them over the last 3 years put together this team and in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball. You know, they kept their offensive coordinator. He stayed. Ben Johnson. He's
Hmm.
returning and he's really going to work on the run game, man. And that's what I really think. Like you said earlier, I mean, they got really like a three-headed monster in the backfield, and I can only
Yeah.
imagine, with this added year of experience and getting to the championship game, the NFC championship game, like just what how much more you can really add, now when you really bringing back the same pieces. They re-signed Glasgow, to a 3-year deal, and he's going to shift now. They're moving him from the right side to the left side to make
Yeah.
room for Zeitler, and he landed with Detroit after being in Baltimore for the last, I want to say it was the last 2 or 3 seasons with Baltimore. So that's an added plus and that's added experience. So really, like I said before, when you mentioned Detroit, you really have to put them in that conversation now seriously, as a team to be, a contender, especially in the NFC. And even looking at the big picture in the NFC, there's really, in my honest opinion, it's only three teams. You
Hmm.
gotta put San Francisco in the conversation. You have to keep Philly in the conversation because I know they had a down year. But again, I think you have to keep them. 1 year removed from a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They've added pieces. And
Hmm.
Detroit, I really and right now I'm having a hard time finding a dark horse. Everybody wants to say Dallas. I don't
Yeah, but
believe.
everybody say Dallas every
Yeah,
doggone year.
I'm not buying the hype. I'm not buying the hype. I'm not taking it. I'm not doing it. So like to me, those are the three serious contenders that are going to be coming out of the NFC this year. So I'm excited to see what Detroit do. Low key, I think I'm becoming a Detroit Lions. I don't want to say a fan, but I do like this. I like what they're doing.
you
No,
you
no,
like to admire them from afar.
yeah, because they're doing things that we're not doing. They're doing a whole lot
Yeah,
of things.
true, true, true.
So they get me excited. So but it'd be fun. So your number one offensive line.
All right, all right. So once again, there's a lot of teams that I have a disdain for. All right.
Right. This one.
And even with that being said, there's not one team that I just, in the pit of my gut,
Mm-hmm.
um, can't stand than the Dallas Cowboys. All right. Um, hey, Tawana, how you
Mm-hmm.
doing?
All right. How you doing?
And with that being said, like I still got to give them their flowers, even though I don't want to.
Mm.
All right. Out of all the teams that I was looking at, this is the only team that actually had like three offensive linemen, either first team All Pro or
Mm-hmm.
second team All Pro. They
Okay.
had Zach Martin. I want to say he was a right guard. That was first team All Pro, and then they had I call them the Smith brothers, but
Mm-hmm.
Tyron and Tyler on second team. They were first in points out of the league, third in total yards per game. Doggone, they were averaging what, like 510 yards per game. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
Given doggone Dak Prescott to he was averaging like 250, 260 yards a game. Tony Pollard was 100 yard, a
Run.
1,000 yard
Yeah,
rusher.
Russia. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They finally gave him the keys, which I felt was overdue for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Zeke fell off. Let's just be real. Zeke
Oh
fell
no, he
off
jumped off.
doggone
It was
like
like
two,
he
3 years
jumped off.
ago.
He jumped off the
Yeah,
cliff.
and never recovered for it. So
No.
in like the whole time, like when I would sit down and watch a Cowboys game, I kept on saying like, when are they going to put Tony Pollard in?
Hmm.
Because like he had the power and he had the agility. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I felt like uh and I just hated seeing like a first and goal at the 3, and now they want to bring Zeke in for him to score that TD. I'm like, nah, man. Kevin
Give it.
Dunn sat here and been behind this huge wall. Like,
Give
go
it to
ahead and
him.
let him get that dog. Yeah, go
Right.
ahead and give
Give
it
it
to him
to
right there.
him. Hmm.
So, now, granted, they did lose Tyrod Smith. So I want to see how they go to recover on that left side, because that left side has been like the Achilles heel
Yeah.
on that doggone line. Even though I think Tyron was hurt for a good portion
Yep.
of the season too. So I want to know
Hmm.
how Dallas going to sit here and recover and make sure that they could keep Dak with that good pass block protection,
Right.
because that's going to be vital. For the season, got to feed CD Lamb.
Got to.
Who was Gallup? Well, Gallup just retired. I just thought
I
about
just said.
that.
I saw that
Yeah,
clip.
yeah,
He retired. Yep.
yeah. That just happened like today, I want to say. I'm
Yeah.
shocked about
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So I wonder who else is going to stand up as far as those offensive weapons. I know they got a good tight end too.
Yeah.
I
Was it
can't think of
Schultz?
his name.
No. No. Not
No, no, no,
Darvish.
not
He's in
Schultz.
He's in Houston. That's the.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about. They do have some good tight ends in Dallas. They do.
yeah. I think they got two tight ends that are pretty
Yeah.
straight.
They do. They do.
But Dak's going to need that pass protection in order to get the ball to him.
Yeah.
And granted, like I always feel when it comes to strength of schedule, just with the conference alone, sorry Giants, like you play these teams twice out of the year, so like 9 times out of 10 is going to be, well, not nowadays because you have to worry about Philly. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? But like the rest of your strength of
Yeah. I'm saying
schedule
that's
is
four.
it's pretty light. You know what I'm
You
saying?
you,
So
you
you're
stacking
giving,
four. You
yeah, you
stacking
sitting
four.
here getting Dak the opportunity to come out here and have these huge games,
Yep.
against sub 500 teams, but you know, you still got to give credit where credit's due. Like
Yep.
they pay for their line, so I got the Cowboys at one.
I'm not mad at that. And it's like you said. We see him twice a year. Um, we saw what happened the first game of last season. We got Molly Wop. I mean, they just came out and crushed us. Second game, pretty much same thing. The Redskins. I mean, I'm sorry, the Commanders. Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
To be
not get
police.
demonetized here.
Right, right. Commanders. They seem to match up a little bit better with them than we do, and for some reason, I think we match up with Philly a little bit better. But like you said, I think you can pretty much, when it comes to that, they're looking at stacking 4 wins pretty much out the
Yeah,
gate every
yeah.
year. But again, like you said, you got to play the schedule. You got to play the games
Mm-hmm.
in front of you, and on any
Yeah,
given Sunday, anything can happen. But I agree with you on that. And Dallas didn't make my five on the offensive side. Only I just so everything you said was true, but it's just the hype of it all. I have no trust in Dak. I just don't. I think when the lights come on, or you turn the microwave on, he's like popcorn. He just pop, and he doesn't pop in a positive way.
right.
They, I blows my mind. Pollard. I thought he was a great pickup, and I was like, you give him the ball. You see what he can do, but now he's gone. So they bring Zeke back. So I don't know what that's going to do. He got a great run blocking scheme, but Zeke is not the guy. Uh,
It's going to be airtime all day,
and
airmail.
and again, and that's what I'm saying. When you put your quarterback in a situation like that, yes, their pass pro is a plus, but if you have to do that 40 times a game, I think you're looking at increase in injury. Just so many different things can happen, and I just don't think Zach is built for it. And that's one of the main reasons why they didn't make my top five. But you had great points. Now for me, my number one, just like you, and again, it stays in the division for me. I had to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think overall they just are outstanding. I guess is the only word that I can really use at both pass and run blocking. Um,
Right.
they've held to me. They've been for the last 3 years. Their offensive line has been probably the best in my opinion in both. And again, when you have Jalen Hurts in it, and this is really going to be the question for the Eagles offensively, what does Jalen Hurts do, and really what does the play calling look like, and what are the decisions that he's going to make? Because he got the Escalade right now. I mean, you got Saquon in the backfield, and even
Hmm.
before Saquon, I mean, they too had three-headed monster with Sanders and Scott and the other young fella. I mean, these dudes they were breaking down defenses from a run potential, and then you look at their wide receivers. I mean, two are the best in the game. And Devontae Smith, like people don't really talk about him, but I mean, he's one of the best wide receivers out there.
Yep.
Goddard, is tight end. These
Yep.
guys, man, they starting five. Even though they lost Kelsey, I mean, and debatable for some, about him being a future Hall of Fame center to retirement. The rest of their line pretty much remains the same. There's
Yep.
no change, and the talent is arguably, like I said, the best, in the league. And I think that's where the difference makes. And then they picked the Kelsey basically handpicked Jurgen to be his replacement. And he's going to slide from the right guard to center. And then they'll have what's his name, Steen, will compete with like Becton and the other guy I can't think of to play, at right guard. So if you're really only losing one piece, and I know it's a dominant piece, but you can really just slide guys and move guys and have veterans that can really slide into a spot, and it's not the blind side,
Yep.
it's on the right side. I'm going to find it hard, for teams to really challenge them on the offensive side. Now, my biggest thing with them also going into the season is changing coordinators. So because they've had continuity, I think it'll be easy for them to process the new scheme. But again, I think we may not see a lot of the explosiveness because usually in the beginning of the season, defensive lines they have the advantage. Generally, when you're going through this process. But I think long term, I think Philly's going to be a team to watch as we come down the back half of the season. If they're in a position to where they're playing for home field or even the second position, I think they're going to be tough. And I think they're going to have a lot of anger too, man. I think they want to prove a lot of people wrong about that collapse that happened during the back half of last season too, because that was just ugly.
Yeah. What was it? Was it 7 L's in a row or
It was
six?
like I think 6 out of 7 or 6 out of 8, and it was
Yeah,
like
because
six in
they,
a
they
row. It
they
was
they took
ugly.
it going into the playoffs too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So they need a redemption tour. You're right.
So that's what I hate this, and I just hope that we show up and at least make it competitive. Even though I'm expecting 2 L's, but I just hope that we make it competitive. I'm just being honest. Like, let's call it
Hey,
what it is.
hey, look,
Yeah,
that's all right. Completely fine.
yeah. Well, let's just be competitive, and I think that was a great half, to open with. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a minute. We're gonna transition. We here at halftime. We're gonna go ahead and fly into our defensive lineup, for the next half. But before we do, I want to take a moment to shout out our partners over at TD3 Insurance, Riddick Entertainment, 94 Media House, and TD3 Enterprises for supporting tonight's live and supporting the show. We really appreciate them and all that they do. So, coming out the break, Sam, we on the
Mm-hmm.
other side. We on the other side of the trenches.
Yep.
We looking at D line, and I'm going. I open up on the defensive side since you opened up on the first half,
Okay.
and so I'm going to go with my childhood team that I'm repping tonight on the D line. I'm going with the Jets. Now, the Jets were horrible. They were beyond horrible last season.
Right.
But, I do want to say that watching and just going back and watching, the whole Aaron, because it was really the whole Aaron Rodgers experiment in New York. But once that flat tire happened, like the second or third series, all the air was really left out of the Jets in New York. But their defense really kept them in really a lot of games last year. When I really sat back and I watched, they were in a lot of games late in the third and early into the fourth quarter. Then disaster just struck.
Right.
And when I look at them, you know, they had at least three players that played over 600 snaps, on the defensive line. And they all, you know, they let them go in the offseason, which mind blowing. But they were still very formidable. And really, with the development that they have right now, they still have good depth, in my opinion. They have Solomon Thomas and again, I don't want to beat up his name, but it's Leaky Fotu, I believe is his name. Um, but they're going to need Will McDonald Jr. to step up, in his second season for them really to take that next step. Um,
Right.
they let one of their first round draft picks leave and walk, but they did pick up some guys. They picked up Quentin Williams, Jermaine Johnson and Hassan Reddick, and again, pay Hassan. Look, you guys really you need that outside threat. You need that pass rush threat. Just pay him his money. I think it'll make all of the difference for them to be able to continue. I don't see much of a drop off with the changes that they had. I think actually their additions are better than those that they actually let walk away. And like anything else in football or any sport, if they can stay healthy, I think they really have a huge opportunity to be one of the most disruptive units in the NFL moving forward in 2024. And I'll be honest with you, low key, I'm excited to see what they do. Just because we're back with the whole Aaron Rodgers hoopla on offense.
Yeah.
I'm really more key to see what the defense does, because let's say the offense does step up, and how does the defense respond? Are they still going to be able to be as disruptive as they were last year with the takeaways and all of the different things that they did? So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. I could dig it. I'm not arguing with it. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be a Jets 2.0, coming in.
So they hope.
So we get to see, you know, hopefully we get to see what a healthy Aaron Rodgers is like, especially with the additions that they have as far as weapons and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be competitive for the
Mm-hmm.
Jets. So we'll see what happens with that.
I think competitive, and when you say competitive, I don't know. For me, competitive for them is 8-9, 9-8, and that
Hmm.
type of realm. And again, the AFC though I think is definitely more stacked
Yeah.
than the NFC. And just
Hmm.
alone in their division having to deal with, Buffalo, in my opinion, is definitely taking a step back. But
Oh yeah.
again, you still have one of the best quarterbacks, and he's a winner and he knows how to win, even though he hasn't been to the game yet. But you gotta watch Miami. I think they're uh they're a play or two or a break or an opportunity away from taking that next step. Uh
Right.
and I mean New England is taking a step back, but and then you look across the rest of the league. I think Indianapolis is going to shock some people. Houston obviously is definitely a team to watch. Like you say, you got the Chargers out west. You still got Kansas City out west. Look,
Yeah.
don't sleep on the Raiders. The Raiders, I think, are going to be tough. So I just the AFC is just going to be a little bit tougher. But I'm
Hmm.
interested to see the body of work that this defensive line can
Right.
bring to the team as a unit. So
All
for
right.
you,
Uh,
I'm gonna let you jump into your number 5.
for me, I got B more Baltimore Ravens.
Got the Ravens in the house.
So with that being said, I've been running with these stats all day, every day. So with that being said, they were first with points against.
Yep.
Um, they were six as far as like total yards against too. They were a little shaky as far as like the rushing yards and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but they averaged 58 sacks for the season.
Mm.
With that being said, you had Justin Madukabuki. I'm probably jacking up that name. Hey, look, I've been practicing that name too, man. But
He's
him,
a
Kobe
loaded dookie.
Turner, and Jonah Williams, like for the out of the 58 sacks that they had, Justin he led the way with 13 sacks for the season. Kobe Turner and Jonah Williams they had nine sacks apiece.
Right.
So and that core is coming back too on that line.
Mm.
So I just think that they're going to sit here and create and cause more havoc, you know what I'm saying, against their opponents for the upcoming season and everything. So
Yeah,
like I have them on my list right there.
I
Since
like
we're
I
talking
like.
about trenches, I ain't going to talk about the linebackers and secondary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, and that's coming up. That'll be in the coming weeks because I feel
Right,
you. Yeah, and I Baltimore was a very they were like my they were just outside my top five, and
right.
only because just talking in this unit. If I could put the whole defense, like I said, like if you go into the linebackers and you add in that secondary, like they're a top five unit to me.
Hmm.
But did in crunch time, I didn't see enough, in my opinion, from the defensive line to make those game changing, moments in the trenches. And that was the only thing that kind of put them outside the five for me.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that there wasn't enough rotation
Hmm.
as far as
Good
the
point.
lines, because we're not talking about like their secondary assets that they have.
Good point. Yep.
They front four, they starting four, or three, depending on what scheme they in. They're the
Yeah.
ones who created and caused that damage or
Yep.
that chaos,
Yeah.
right there in the trenches.
Yeah.
But it's a 4-quarter game.
Yeah. True.
So these cats are going to sit here and get gassed out. So if anything, you know what I'm saying, um, you know, they should build to have that rotation. So there's a couple of teams that I'm gonna bring up that I think that they do have like a rotating
Yeah.
front four lineup and everything. But I do think that that depth is what doggone Baltimore is lacking.
I agree, and that's a very good way to put it. That I didn't see. I think as the
Yeah.
season wore on, and really once they got to the play, they would to me they were kind of run down, um, somewhat of a step slow, and I just didn't see enough pressure in some games that
Hmm.
I felt that you know where that quarterback has to know 1, 2, 3. That 3 second clock has got to be in his head that
Right.
he's got to make a decision. And for me, I didn't see enough of that from Baltimore, but still a great pick, and I think they're a great unit,
Hmm.
overall. But we'll get to that, in the upcoming weeks. I'm sure.
I
So
got you.
for me again another odd one, and I wouldn't really say odd. Is this again? This is not a team. This is not. It hasn't really been a championship contender, and I went back to Cleveland, and for me, Cleveland, I just think it's just the talent on their defensive line. But I mean, we're talking about Miles Garrett, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the one of the premier edge rushers in the game. You
Yeah.
know, it didn't dawn on me, 7 years in the league already. But I looked at some of the numbers. He's averaged at least 50 pressures and 13 or more sacks per season. So
Mm.
just that alone, that's huge. That's just one individual. Now, even though he might be the headliner, they still have three other starters on the line that are
Yeah.
returning. So again, we're back to the continuity, and the brother Shelby Harris and Tomlinson, those two alone generated 57 pressures and 6 sacks last season,
Mm.
while being solid against the run. I think they were stout in the middle against the run.
Right.
Then the other brother on the other side, Zadarius Smith, even though he really didn't have a lot of sacks in his first season, he had six. But I mean, heck, I'll take the six. Six is good for 1 year, but he
Yeah.
did finish second on the team, and he had 60 pressures on the quarterback last year. So his work from the other side, pushing the quarterback and everything towards Miles Garrett, I mean, is huge. That's a huge payoff. Now, they had depth too on the edges. They had and I can't say this brother's name. I'm just gonna call him by his first name, Agbo, because his last name is Okai, and I'm not gonna kill it, but he played over 400 snaps, and generated the most pressures in his career last season with 33, and that was in a reserve role. So, like we were talking about with Baltimore, just
Hmm.
the depth and things that they had, and he converted those 33 pressures into 4.5 sacks. So again, from a reserve player, from a reserve standpoint, you're getting your money's worth. And like I said,
Yeah.
just in terms of pure talent, and this will lead into my number one. But there's another team on this list that I think that this line really is just missing a couple of pieces, could compete with my number one on this list. And it's hard for me even to put them at number one, but Cleveland, I think, is full of excitement on the D line. There's some questions across the rest of the unit, but they're definitely a team to be contended with. I think in 2024-2025 season. So I'm gonna let you transfer because
Okay.
I believe are we going home to number 3 for you, or do we have them listed higher?
Oh, let me see. Let me see. Let me make sure I get this right. I think I skipped one. Who I said? Oh, I said the Ravens, right?
Yep,
All right. So we go. Did I do my number 5?
yep, you did. You
Okay.
gave me
All right.
you
I
give me
just
the
want to
Rams.
double tap.
Yep, you
Okay.
good.
All right. Just want to double tap. All right. All right. Number 3. Being biased again. Here we go.
I had a
You know what I'm
feeling.
saying?
I had a
Hey, look.
feeling.
Of course, I'm gonna drop the Green Bay Packers in there. All right.
Had a feeling.
And like, look, I know they barely cracked the top 10 in anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, they sucked at rushing. You know
Mhm,
what I'm saying?
mhm,
They squeezed in. I think they were ranked ninth as far as like defensive passing yards allowed. And they were ranked 10th with points against.
mhm.
But they front four is vicious, and the two
Yeah,
people that I like to talk about is Kenny Clark and doggone Rashad Gary. You know what I'm
Gary
saying?
Johnson.
Like, and like how we were talking about rotations and everything. That's one thing that I do give Green Bay their front four.
Mhm.
Um, don't quote me on their backups because I barely know them, but I know when they come in, it's like okay. You know what I'm saying? Like they
They're
keep that
fresh.
rotation going.
Yeah,
And for me, I feel like that's super key when it comes to um, the actual plays that goes on. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? To keep your lines fresh and everything. So that's
yeah.
one thing that I do give Green Bay credit on. Now, I hope this season we did pick up another DN.
Mhm.
So I just hope that they keep that same rotation. Matt LaFleur just needs to switch off the doggone defensive schemes. Like I'm just going to keep it a beam right there because it gets too predictable.
I was
And I
just gonna
think
say it's
that's the
predictable.
issue that happens. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like down the road when we start talking about secondaries and everything, I think that they filled those plugs too. But like it was just the repetitive of the play calling on the defensive line that got them exposed. So
yeah.
let's just be honest with that.
You hit it on the head for me. And you're right. I can't queue up a lot of the names on the Packers D line. Consistent though, but I will agree with you. I think as the season progressed, and I don't even want to say, I think from what I've seen of LaFleur, like defensively, it's predictable, and I think they
Mm-hmm.
they they really need to do more to kind of change up the scheme, give different looks. Um, and I think it would help them long term. But like you said, the back end will get to. I think they did a great job. What's the brother? What's it? Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, Razul
Uh,
Douglas. Yeah,
man, great pickup,
monster.
man, monster,
Yeah.
man. I mean, it was a great pickup.
Yep.
So, it really helped turn the tide a lot. As they transitioned, because early on in the year was rough, but they hit their
Mm-hmm.
stride, and I think they really turned a corner. So I think, good things are coming in Green Bay, and I'm not mad at you for being a homer, man. At least you got one.
hey,
Um,
hey, look, hey, look, hey, look. Ride or die. Ride or die.
hey, yeah. I think I'm falling out. I think I'm falling out the car. Oh my! So you keep it real. Falling
You're
out the
like, let me
car.
go.
Yeah,
Let me go.
please, please, somebody, man, pineapple, something, anything. Uh,
You just said pineapple.
something. So for me, another the number two for me, is really I'm going to Indy. Indy
Mm-hmm. Okay.
was my number two pick.
Right.
Again, this is an offense. I mean a defense that I think people sleep on. You know,
Okay.
they produced pretty well in 2023, right?
Yeah.
They had a top 8 defensive lineman in their rotation, in terms of snaps played. Uh, and you got DeForest Bruckner, who may not be a big name, but he's a heck of a football player. Samson Ekubom and Quidey Pay. These three, man, they really graded well. Just looking at, I'm not going to get into all of the semantics, but just looking at how they grade offensive linemen, these three gentlemen graded uh, in the top 10 percentile, across the league. And when you have those three guys, they're putting together 128 pressures and 26 sacks combined. So that's pretty solid, I think. And they also, opted to bring back like, Grover Stewart, who's that one technique guy in the middle, give you that hog to really block up the lane.
Right.
And this downside was he was only limited to 11 games last year. And I mean, I hate to say this, but he got hit with the PED, with the drug suspension. So it's a little questionable, but he graded well, as well, and when you look at really the return in depth, again, they have depth in players. Tyquan Lewis, 44 pressures and 4 sacks. They
Mm-hmm.
had Deo Odeingbo, again,
Yep.
another 29 pressures and another 8 sacks. And then they just went out and drafted the young man from UCLA with the 15th pick, to add to their line. I just think that this is another one that can really compete, and that's why I have him at my number two, because even they lack star power, right? We talk about some of
Right.
these lines or whatever, even though you don't see their face, but
Mm-hmm.
you hear certain names like Garrett and what's the boy in Dallas Ware and all of these other guys, like they just lack that star power. But when you look at them on paper and what this unit
Yep.
does, they bring it, man. And I'm excited to see what they do now that this as a team. I'm still stuck on the Richardson, as quarterback, but I'm interested to see what he brings and what they do and what other pieces that they add to their linebacking core in their secondary. And to be honest, they're playing the South.
Yeah.
Uh, Houston
It's open
is
real estate
really,
right now.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
uncharted waters. So
Yeah.
just to see what they put together and what they bring, I keep my eye on Indianapolis in the South this year just to see what kind of noise that they can make and challenge Houston going forward in the division.
Okay.
So uh transfer to you on your number two.
All right. My number two. Man. All right. Here we go again. All right. Um.
He's having a
There.
hard time tonight. He's having a hard time tonight.
Yeah. We got somebody sitting here and trying to invade the North. You know what I'm saying? We gave them their flowers earlier, and I guess I have to like rake around, the planet area, to make sure that it's well watered and seeded and everything. But
Right.
I'm going with the Detroit Lions. All
Okay.
right. Man, I hate to say this. Um, I mean, what can I say? With their front four, the biggest person that they generated 41 sacks for the season. They were 11th in interceptions. The key guy that they had was the rookie that they brought in, Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, I think it was.
Yep.
Was it Michigan? Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
And the way that he was able to transition so quickly, you know, and onto into the NFL system
Yep.
was like wild. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? There wasn't like one doggone play. I want to say he had like 59 tackles for the season. Um, but just to me, like that's like the new foundation. If they could sit here and build around him, like that front four, like moving forward, is going to be vicious. And he
Yeah.
stayed healthy. That's the key thing about it. You know what I'm saying? I guess it's just that young energy that he brought to that team, to that defense. You know what I'm saying? Especially like during those home games and feeding off that doggone energy. Like,
Yeah.
um, I just, I mean, I want to say they were probably ranked they were ranked in the top five as far as like just overall defense. Period. So
Mhm.
um, here you go, Detroit. You got me saying your damn name two times in two segments. The
It's rough.
disdain, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but I just have to give credit where it's due.
Credit's due. I agree.
Um, it was a good defensive scheme. It
Yeah.
shut down a lot of talented teams. Yeah, so yeah, Detroit Lions number two.
I can't get mad at you. Like I said, I had Detroit in both of mine. Again, silent fan, I guess, here in the DMV. I like what they're doing on both sides of the ball. I
Mm-hmm.
had them my number three, and you got them one above. So I think we're both in jive and in sync with really what they're doing in Detroit. I know definitely harder for you. You see them twice a year with your Packers and everything. Um, but I think there's competition, right?
Yeah.
And really, we know this is where it starts, like we said, in the trenches. So I can't dispute Detroit being on either list
Right.
this year. I can't dispute it. Um, for me, moving into my number one selection, again, this one really hurts just like you. This is in division, rival, foe. Yeah, man. I just had to go with the Dallas Cowboys. Um, you know, part of it sometimes does feel a little overhyped. We talk about the Cowgirls every year, and there is a lot of hype, but breaking it down, I think they got run down and wore down as last season went on. I really do.
Yeah.
But watching them maybe in that first 10 to 12 game stretch, um, their top four defensive linemen probably make up one of the most talented groups of individuals that cohesively work and just being disruptive. I mean, they are just totally disruptive. I mean, look, we talking about Demarcus Lawrence. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he gets enough credit. I think
No.
he's a heck of a player. But we're looking at Michael Parsons,
Mm-hmm.
um, Osa, and the other gentleman, Mazai Smith or Mazzy Smith. Like these dudes wreaked havoc. Like when I looked at them as a group, just looking at some, like they generated 22 sacks and 202 total quarterback pressures. Like that's a lot. That's a lot from
It
just
is a
four
lot.
guys. Four guys, right? Um, they were middle of the road against against the running game, but I just watching them on film and tape and just think like these guys just wreaked havoc, and I think for them this year though the biggest challenge we talked about it. You mentioned it earlier, like talking about Baltimore, just the depth. I think they're low on depth this year, especially in that defensive front on that line. They lost four of their key contributors from last year, who basically played almost 300 snaps in these gentlemen, and they let them walk in free agency. So, and that was what's his name, Armstrong, Jonathan Hankins, um, Neville Gallimore, and Dante Fowler Jr. They let them all
Mm-hmm.
walk. So it's
Yeah.
going to be hard to kind of make up, like you said, we talk about rotation and having fresh legs. So watching them burn out the way they did last year is going to be interesting to watch and see if that happens again this year. I think that's what really hurt them down the stretch, and really watching them in the playoffs again. Ooh, you guys, Jesus criminy. I mean, whew, they wasn't even ready for y'all. When I say
No.
y'all, you kicked them in the mouth, and they never recovered.
Hey,
You
look, they
know,
didn't get the assignment, and I graciously accept that, like whatsoever. So like they weren't ready.
No, at all.
So
I don't. They were on the wrong week, the wrong years. They just all wrong, and it's going to be tough. Because they've added second round pick and a couple of other guys, and they're going to be looking for these young guys and these new guys to take on bigger roles. So I think that's going to be crucial in how they really maintain and manage. And like I said, as long as Dallas doesn't produce a game like they did against you guys, where they're turning the ball over and their defense is going to have to play a lot. That's where it's going to get hard for them. It's going to be interesting to see. But on paper, and just talking about this one line, I think their line is the best line right now at this point, heading into the 2024-2025 season.
I mean I can't argue with it. I hate them, but like I mean, like you just watch them and you see that work in that play that they do, and like you said, just the pressure that they cause.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, and it frees up the linebackers to come in. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying, and clean up whatever. If the quarterback sits here and decides to go out of pocket and everything,
Mm-hmm.
so it's because of that front four that kind of gave those linebackers that liberty to sit
Yep.
there and play cleanup man
Yep.
and destroy whoever
Yeah.
caused
Yeah.
that sack or loss of yardage and everything. So
Yep. Well, it's
I
gonna be
do give
interesting.
it to him.
I,
Yeah.
I, I mean, that's for me. I got to give it to him. It's hard to say, like say, individual rival. I hate getting the
Hmm.
full words out, but I'm gonna give them their kudos, Dallas. Kudos to
Yeah.
you. Let's see how it plays out. And Sam, as we come to the back end, you're number
Hmm.
one on
Yes.
your list.
Number one. All right. I don't like these Bama's either. You know what I'm saying? And I brought them up before in my offensive line pick. And I'm gonna keep it going with the defense. I have to give it to the Niners,
Mm.
San Francisco, first name. And I mean, just I'm gonna run off some names
Hmm.
and just let me know how you feel about it. Starting off with Nick Bosa, Alex Barrett, Eric Armstead, doggone Javon Hargrave. That's just to name a few. They picked
Right.
up Robert Bill Jr.,
Hmm.
but just man, just think like that's Nick Bosa on the line, and Armstead,
Hmm.
and Alex Barrett. Just those three alone. Like that was a vicious monster.
Yep.
Um, this line assisted the rest of the defense. I think they ranked third as far as points per game with 17.5. Um, they contributed to being third as far as rushing yards per game too, with 89.7 yards a game. Um, they were also sixth as far as sacks, averaging for the season too,
Mm.
with 48 that was up there. Shoot, Nick Bosa alone, he had
Yeah, monster.
84. What was it for
Hmm.
the season? 84 tackles,
Yes,
between
man.
84 and 90 tackles for the
Yeah,
season.
monster, man.
And this is another team that we talk about the cleanup because that freed up doggone Greenlaw and Fred Warner.
To
You
make
know what I'm
plays.
saying? Yep.
Hmm.
So like you can't talk about a top five defensive line without bringing up doggone the 49ers.
I like that because I think in that uh on that line, I think Armstead gets overlooked the most.
Yeah.
And I think and just my opinion in that line, I think he's more crucial than any other player, just because he really helps drive. It's kind of like the Cleveland situation with the pass rusher on the other side of Garrett, really forcing a lot of things towards Bosa. Now, don't get it twisted. Bosa, though, he's incredible because he plays across the line.
Yeah.
You can pretty much put him anywhere on that D line, and he
Yeah.
makes plays. The dude is incredible.
Shit, you
And
could put
I
him as a linebacker if you
and
need to.
and that's what I'm saying. I was just gonna say, and it really, if you
Go ahead
playing
and
a
flip it
full,
to a 3-4.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say, if you want to put him, you're giving your scheme as a look of a base 4-3,
Mm-hmm.
but he can
Yep.
drop into coverage and become a fourth linebacker. And he can
Yep.
cover tight ends, he can cover running backs coming out of the backfield. Very dangerous. And I mean, I didn't have San Francisco in mind, uh, but again, on the edge of one of the units that I really considered, and you have to because just of the work again that they've done the last couple of years, making it to the Super Bowl, being a perennial power in the NFC, you really cannot overlook them. And I really thought that was a great pick, and I struggled with it, but they didn't make my cut. But I mean, you brought up some great points on their D line, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and we'll talk about it. As the season go, as we go on through our training camp, and we'll get to our picks, for the Super Bowl at the end. But man, I really appreciate it, Sam. Great picks, great information, great stats, great insight. Um, Before we close out, man, anything you want to share, or you want to say, I want to give you a minute, man, to drop some knowledge, drop some comment before we go.
I don't know about the knowledge, and we've been eating up on football. Hey, look, win or lose, rep your team. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? I think everyone is excited for the football season. I like the energy that it brings. I feel like it's clean rivalry.
yeah.
So Um, all I ask once again is to raise your banner, rep your team, have fun, and just do it around, the people that you find close to, or even meet new folks. I remember a few years ago we went to the Commanders and the Packers game, and just being at FedEx Field and just looking at the camaraderie. We just got out the truck and we had some doggone Packers fans giving us Green Bay sushi, which is disgusting. It's like
I,
pickles,
I
cream cheese,
I
and
was just ready to say, please don't
yeah,
say
it was.
cream cheese. Oh my
Hey, look,
god.
it was some weird shit. But like, anyways, as soon as
Damn.
as we landed and they saw the jerseys, they was like, "Oh, go ahead and have a Green Bay, have some of this Green Bay sushi." And then they stone cold me. You know what I'm saying? I raised my hand and there was a beer. I raised my other hand, there was another beer. Had to chug it before we got into the stadium. But just the rivalries are deep.
Yeah.
The competitiveness is going to be there, but just make sure that you have fun with it and enjoy the season. We have 18 games this time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead. Shoot, All-Star game. I mean, not All-Star game. Hall of Fame game is next week.
Yep.
So that's going to be our intro into the season. So let's just have fun with it. Win or lose, rep your team.
I love it, man. I couldn't have said it any better. That's why I wanted to let you take us out with that. I agree. Have fun this season, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. Enjoy your rivalries. Talk your smack in fun, in jest, and in good humor. Do not be malicious about it. And just enjoy. I mean, it's going to be a long season. Like I said, we got 18 games, and I can't say how much I look forward to it because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some weeks I'm going to want to break something, or I might have to go see my spiritual advisor a little bit more this season because it just don't look good. But I'm going to try to do like Sam said. I'm going to try to have fun. I'm going to continue to rep my team and make the most of it.
Hey,
So
look,
look,
just go to the Dollar Tree and rack up on some cheap plates, so you can just
you,
toss them out the
you know,
window.
maybe I just do plastic. Maybe I just do plastic.
Plastic.
I don't know, I can crumple it up, whatever. I can reuse it in so many different
Be more
manners.
eco-friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy, man. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you check us out next week. We're gonna be back. We're gonna be talking about safety blankets and heavy hitters, man. We're gonna be going to the tight ends and the safeties, and chopping it up, man. We're gonna give it our top 5 again or for each. So I hope you come on back. I see many of you in the weeds. I thank you for joining, but don't be scared. Next time, go ahead and drop your comments, man. Don't hide in the background. I thank you for being here.
Hey, look, talk y'all stuff. It's
And
all
right,
right. You know
it's
what I'm
okay.
saying? Hey, look, I might blaze you once or twice, and then the caveat, y'all might say something that might make me shut up for a few minutes. You know what I'm saying? But go. It ain't nothing wrong with being vocal.
No, it's okay. It's okay. This is a welcome. This is a welcome space, and we really thank you. Look forward to having you back with us next week. And before we go, I just want to remind everybody. So look, Two Mics Up season 7 is going to be coming back in September. Just started the all new Infusion TV channel, which will be airing on the Mogul TV Global Network. Go ahead and check out the channel, man. Hey, if anybody out here in the weeds, you're a content creator, if you're a podcaster, you're interested in talking and having your own show and your own segment, and you want to be able to stream your show across 45 countries and counting, 100 million viewable subscribers on Amazon and Roku TV, hit me up, send me a message. I'd like to talk to you, see about bringing your content, to the channel. Opportunities are boundless and endless, here at Two Mics Up and Infusion TV. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And like we do, before we leave and head out, for every, single show, every single segment, that's right, Costa Rican is fire, straight burn. Want to leave you with a couple of things. Want to ask you all to continue to stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out. Catch you next week.